President Moon Jae-in used emotion-charged words to define the controversial 2015 Seoul-Tokyo deal over Japan's sexual enslavement of Korean women, confirming once and for all the accord struck during the previous administration is simply unacceptable. Our chief Cheongwadae correspondent Moon Connyoung starts us off.
Comfort women is a euphemistic term referring to the tens or even hundreds of thousands of women from all around Asia, mostly from the Korean Peninsula, who were forced to sexual slavery by the Japanese military before and during the Second World War. In December 2015, the governments of South Korea and Japan announced an agreement that the two sides called final and irreversible, claiming it settles a decades-long impasse over the sexual slavery issue. Unworkable is what the new South Korean President Moon Jae-in called the 2015 agreement reached under his predecessor, as it is faulty in procedure and content, a day after a state-appointed panel concluded that the agreement, in which Japan agreed to provide funds for the dwindling number of survivors, had failed to properly communicate with the victims before reaching the deal. In a readout by a spokesperson, the president said the agreement was seriously flawed and cannot solve the long-standing issue.
This runs afoul of the established universal principle of the international community for setting history issues, and above all, it was a political agreement that does not include the victims themselves and the Korean people.
The South Korean leader ordered follow-up measures to resolve the dispute with Japan over the sex slavery issue.
Despite the burden of the past agreement being a formal promise between governments that was ratified by the leaders of both countries, I, as president, along with the Korean people, make it clear again that the comfort woman issue cannot be settled through this deal.
Following President Moon's remarks, a Japanese Foreign Ministry spokeswoman reiterated Foreign Minister Taro Kono's comments that any attempt to change the deal would be unacceptable and make relations unmanageable.
From Japan's perspective, this whole situation can be quite baffling, as these are the terms that the two governments agreed on. So the current South Korean government will have to come up with some kind of diplomatic measure that takes account both their relations and satisfy the public sentiment, as well as the victims themselves. It would be most ideal if it can negotiate a way with Japan to revise the 2015 agreement to reflect South Korean public sentiment.
It isn't clear yet how the South Korean president, who still enjoys a near 70% approval rating at 7.5 months into office, plans to take this issue from here on out. But many experts see it as highly unlikely that Mr. Moon Jae-in will scrap the deal altogether, as it could spark a full-out diplomatic row with Japan, especially now when Seoul and Tokyo face the pressing needs to form a united front against North Korea's growing nuclear threat. Moon Connyoung, Arirang News, The Blue House.